How did you like working for Blizzard comparative to working for Riot?
I didn't.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Minds of Media. My name is Blake Panashevitz, and today's guest is someone I'm so happy to have on the show. He has done everything from being a pro player to co-founder of an esports agency to a shoutcaster and analyst. Please let me welcome Alberto Rengifo, maybe better known as Crumbz. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, Blake. Thank you for having me. It's been a long planning process to get this going.
I know. I'm so excited. And like researching about you is actually so cool because even though we've met and talked, like I had learned some things like when I was researching about you that I would have definitely have liked to talk to you more about. And I think I like to start off the show pretty easy with like the questions that we're going to ask and things that we're going to discuss. So some people might not know this about you. You've mentioned it a couple other places, is that you did sailing growing up and you were actually a competitive sailor. One of the things I wanted to ask about you, did you ever do like leisure sailing? Like stuff that you just went out for like fun? Because I used to own a sailboat actually, and so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like sailing a lot. But the competitive sailing versus like just like leisurely sailing are way two different worlds.
So the leisurely sailing we did was, and this was in Venezuela, where we had a wall of islands essentially, just all from the coast, away from the coast. And if you went by boat, it would take you maybe an hour, maybe even less to get to these islands. So if you went by sailboat, it would take you maybe 4 hours.
Hmm.
And so we would take all of our boats, oftentimes every weekend, to these islands just to hang out, just to have some beers, just to have some drinks, just to play in the beach, or just to go. Sometimes we would take very large boats. So the smallest one was the Optimist, the one that I sailed, which was about 2 meters long.
Hmm.
And then the whole week 16 is a catamaran. So it's the double pontoons,
Yeah.
nothing in the middle except the big mesh. And we would take those and then drag coolers in those as well. And those could take a lot more people. So we could bring people that weren't even involved in the sailing. And other times we took boats from the owners of the sail club, which were actually, proper boats with decks and
Yeah.
holes and everything. And we would go there and take even more people. And sometimes we would go harpoon fishing and just hanging out by the beach. And we saw, there was a night where we actually got to see a constellation of stars because we decided to camp. There was just a star storm, basically. And there were literally so many stars. And this is how dumb we were back then. But as kids, we were bored. Like, enough with the stars. Can we just go to bed already? They just don't stop. When can these shooting stars just stop? But it was a cool moment.
Yeah, it's funny kind of looking now if you think back on it, like because you live in like LA now and you don't see the stars very like I don't remember seeing the stars that often when I was in LA versus like living in Michigan. You see the stars every day. Like you get so used to seeing like the stars because they're just always there that you kind of take them for granted until you go to some place where you literally cannot see them ever, and it's kind of crazy that you lose that and you come to appreciate it a lot more, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, kind of looking at that, I actually had a 25-foot McGregor, and you got to have some crazy kind of stories. I know one time I was doing a sailing trip and my motor like died on me, and I had to sail back against the wind for like 16 hours. It was horrible. So like, but you got to have some good stories of like some probably bad experiences that happened that you had to kind of like critically think your way out of it and kind of move through it. Because I can't imagine you sailed that often without having one.
Yeah, I mean, I had a ton of experiences. Just the sailing in general is and has been just a huge part of my life.
Mhm.
There's been some nutty stories. Let's see. I think one of the ones that was very interesting to me was that we were going in these Hobie 16s, maybe 5 of us, so 10 people in total, 2 to each boat, and we were caught in a storm. Now, normally medium wind, that say is between 9 and 15 knots,
Yeah.
and 20 or 16 up to 20 would be pretty strong.
Hmm.
20 to 30 is like, well, this is really strong, like really fucking strong.
Yeah.
30 plus is you probably shouldn't be here. This was 30 plus, and we were caught in there, and we're like, well, we got to get out of here. But because it comes at you so fast, if you don't see it coming, we were already enveloped by the storm by the time that we were starting to go down. And so this is a storm that's so fast that you can't use your sails.
Yeah.
Because you're going way too fast. Like the boat is not ready to handle those speeds. And because of the size of the waves, it's very easy to capsize because the pontoons are all shaped like a banana and just meant to cut through the water like a blade.
Mm-hmm.
When the waves are so large, the movement up and down, the second that one of these pontoons gets a little bit under the water with the speed that it's going, it can flip the entire boat forward. So you have a giant boat that's 16 feet long by almost 25 feet tall, just flipping over, and everybody inside also flips. So that's what we wanted to avoid. And the boat that I was on, we could not avoid the flipping, but what happened was we just took down the sails and just floated home. Mm-hmm. So we managed to get away from that, and by the time we made it, we heard that somebody flipped and got seriously injured. Ooh. And we saw them come back, and my dad had put them on their boat, and this person had hit themselves on the head, flipped over, and he was literally red. He was one color. Unanimous from head to toe, there was one color on this person. And it's like, wow, that's pretty intense. He got, I think it was 40 or almost, I want to say 40 staples Ooh. In the head. But he was fine. And then I think a few weeks later, the same thing happened again. We were caught in a storm one more time. But this time we were prepared. We're like, okay, we know what happened last time. We know how to get out of this. So when you're sailing these boats, you have a harness that you tie to yourself that mm-hmm. lets you extend yourself over the boat to increase your leverage, your body weight's leverage over it to keep it stable. And we were tying these harnesses a little bit to ourselves, but then because we thought, we could stay on the boat this way, but you don't want to have that tied to you because if it flips and you're going to just maybe rattle somewhere. So we figured, okay, well, what we can do is we can just half the sail so we can still move somewhere. So we lowered the sails a bit, and we're just holding on, right? Just holding on, hold as tight as possible, just bracing for impact the whole way through. Because you see it with each wave, you see just how close the tip of the boat gets to flipping over. Because I mean, the pontoons are like they're less than a foot tall, pretty much. Yeah. So for it to get completely immersed underwater, going so fast and being with so much inertia, you knew it was a matter of time, and in less than a fraction, in the fastest instance of time that I've ever experienced, I was floating in the water. 1 second I'm holding here, and in an instant I was like, I'm floating in the water. I didn't even notice the brain. Nothing told me that the boat had been flipped, that I had been tossed over. It was a surreal experience to see the potential damage that moment could have caused, where somebody could just die like that, to actually seeing it happen to you but not get hit or be completely unscathed and just go, holy crap.
Did you get brought back into the boat really quickly then?
Oh, well, you're right on the boat anyways. Like it's not like what you and the boat flip together. So it's not like you're catapulted out of it. Okay.
Because the thing you mentioned is it seems like you have a lot smaller sailboats. I know that for my McGregor, I was never really worried because the keel was just so big that it was like...
these were not boats with keels.
Yeah.
So the keel is a natural stabilizer. Yeah. So you don't have to do anything. The light sailing is all about you have to be the keel.
Yeah. So that would be really scary for storms because like me being in my sailboat, I would like storms suck. And they're not really fun, and you want to avoid them still because like it's just not fun, and it's still not always the safest.
Yeah, I think your experience of sailing and mine are very. See, my experience of sailing is more like hard work and farm labor, where every wave you're getting splashed with cold water, just constantly hitting your face, and you have to pull ropes and move things around and scramble to survive. Yeah, that was sailing for me. It's not. Yeah,
I was gonna say
I'm chilling.
Yeah, yours is a very much more intense experience of sailing. And also more terrifying for storms. Like that would actually be really like you kind of blow it off like but that actually
it's always scarier in hindsight. I think at the time you're never aware of how much shit you're in until you get out of it and start doing the math. And like, oh my god, that was something I'm not going to do anymore.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So you grew up in Venezuela for a while. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Younger brother by 1 year.
How much younger? 1 year? Okay. So you guys, I imagine that you guys must have fought a lot because you were pretty close to age.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was the older, so I was the oldest. So it was not fair.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's how it works with older brothers because I'm also the older brother, and that's just the way that it has to be. So what was Venezuela like? Because I've never been to Venezuela. I've never experienced it. How would you describe like living there for a while?
It's a different place than I'd say the whole country, just because I grew up in a town of 100,000 people.
Oh, okay.
A beach town, pretty much. So I did spend some time in the city. I was born in the city, in the capital, but I moved to the beach pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And post third grade, I was in an American school ready to learn English, not in the Venezuelan education system.
Okay. How did you do that? How did you get into an American school?
My parents, of course, and I had nothing to do with all this.
I didn't know if it was just as easy as being like, we're just gonna ship him over. I didn't know if you had to.
I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to options. I didn't know anything at the time. My parents. So I started learning English fairly young, and I think that I was just from that. I can definitely tell you I was more privileged than a lot of people in Venezuela, and it's not a safe place. Yeah. And not for getting offended, but for worse things. So you always have to be on guard. So I grew up very sharp, very quick to social situations and making sure that things are right. And I think that develops a strong sense of intuition. I'd consider myself somebody fairly intuitive. And if something feels off to me in a place, I'm going to feel fairly confident that it has to do with my safety, or it has to do with something suspicious. That's how I grew up. Like that's how the place was where I was at. I mean, I had kids in my school that had been kidnapped by their own security guards. You have to those are things that were happening.
God. That's because I've heard stories of Venezuela. Like you hear stories about like all of like the violent crimes and stuff that happened in Venezuela, and it sounds terrifying. But I wasn't sure like how much of that is like a representation of like stories we hear versus something that's actual happening. And the way you say it now, if I'm being captured, like kidnapped by
it's worse now. It's a lot worse now. A lot worse now. Yeah.
God. So what did your parents do for a living?
My dad graduated as an engineer, mechanical engineer. My mother as an architect.
Oh, wow.
In Venezuela, they were teaching computer classes and math. So they were doing some work. They were teaching people.
Okay. And now you moved away from Venezuela. What age did you leave Venezuela?
14. That's when I left. 2007.
2007. Okay, so up till that point, what was school like for you? Was it like constantly like almost like a whoever is the alpha person is on top? Like what was school like? Because you already mentioned that it was dangerous and you had to be aware of your social situations.
Oh no, but in Venezuela, it was an international school, so it was very different.
Okay.
it was a lot of American people because it was an American system or American design program. The school had 100 kids from grade 0 to 12.
Oh, wow. That's not very many.
So sometimes we did not have graduating classes. Sometimes we had three grades of students put together in the same class.
Oh, wow. That doesn't sound very good.
It was. It very was. Because think of it like this. What kind of quality education do you get if you have each teacher devoting more of his energy to more students versus you have fewer students?
Yeah.
So with fewer students, the projects and things that we could do were significantly more engaging than everything that I came to do in schools in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was engaging beyond your own grade. It was engaging for the entire school. I mean, everybody knew everybody.
It kind of wasn't like a public school system then where you just kind of have, oh, this is your book, you have to read it and you have to learn. It was more, hey, we're going to kind of teach you how to learn and there's going to be more interactive things and we're going to work with you.
There was a curriculum for sure. I don't know how it was operating before. I was 14 and didn't even know any of that stuff. But
that's fair.
I think that it was just more hands-on and with really smart teachers as well, in a really caring environment that I think a lot of the people that might not have had that outside of that city were getting that in that school.
Mm-hmm. So are your parents also from Venezuela then?
That's right. Yeah, they are, and their parents are.
Okay. Did you have what is the family structure like for Venezuela? Do you have like really big families or like really close? Because I know different cultures have different like families and how they interact with each other.
I think it's only the States that has a lack of family priorities. Family is a very strong value in Venezuela. It might be number one.
Okay.
Although I think it's the same for every place except the United States.
That's probably true, but I always like to ask about it because it's interesting because I grew up in the United States and family really means not that much in the United States, unfortunately. So it's a very much different atmosphere.
Big deal. Yeah, big deal for Venezuela. I mean, you just have a lot of family members. I think it's different for everyone, but whoever you have, you're talking to.
That's fair. So you mentioned age 14, you moved to Canada, right? British Columbia, if I got that right,
yeah.
Right? What preempted the move to British Columbia? Why did you guys end up moving there?
Not my call.
Did you ever ask?
It's a good place to live.
Okay.
Are you kidding me? I mean, it's what a great place to live and give children an opportunity to do something. I'd say, like, where else would you choose in the world? A place like that, I think, is really good. I think it's a good choice.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if there was like, hey, we're not liking Venezuela, or if it was just like, oh, we want more opportunities for our kids, or if there was a job or something like that.
No, it's more we're not liking Venezuela.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see how the what's going on now is not just, oh shit, it happened 2 years ago. It's been a process of almost 30, 40 years happening to the country.
So they decided to get out because they weren't liking Venezuela. They decided to move to Canada. Was that something that you were like, did it have any effect on you where you're like, oh, this really sucks, I'm going to miss all my friends? Was it like, yay, I get to move to Canada?
Oh, yeah, it was a huge effect. I mean, I didn't know anything about Canada or what was going on. I was dumbfounded, but it was an opportunity to start a new life in a conscious manner. I think it was a wake-up call in the sense of, hey, you can do this, right? You can change your mind really quickly, and the environment will help you out if you want, but you can do it. And that kind of experience helped me a lot. It also, I think, teaches you how to let go of things a lot easier when you don't really have a choice. I mean, you have to let go. You don't have a choice. Like, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you kind of have this like almost like positive I can work through it type of attitude. Have you always had that?
I don't think so. It's too late to look back and remember with certainty, yes or no. But I think it's a way to look at things that is very. It gets through everything. That's what I see about it, right? Like it's the most long-term strategy for going about things that I can think of.
That makes sense. So you went to secondary school in British Columbia.
That's right.
What was that like for you?
So remember how in Venezuela I had 100 kids from
Yeah.
0 to 12? In Canada, I had 3,000 from grades 8 to 12.
Wow.
So I was not prepared, and I also was not prepared to see that many ethnicities. You know, when I was in Venezuela, my experience with Asia had been trying a few California roles, seeing rather 2 Chinese students from China that did not speak English temporarily pass by at the school. Chinese people that sold goods at the supermarket that didn't speak Spanish. And a sailing friend who was not Chinese, who we called Chinese as an affectionate term.
Yeah.
And when I go to Vancouver, I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? And the food in me at first, I kid you not, I couldn't go through Chinatown without first wanting to puke. I was not ready for the aromas. I had to hold my breath.
Really?
But as soon as I was able to get past it, I just immediately was all over it, just nonstop trying all the Asian foods that I could. I immediately just fell in love with Asian food. And then back to school, sorry. I was able to get a girlfriend. There was a lot more fish in the sea. I had skipped a grade in Venezuela, and skipping a grade when you have so few students does not do you any good for getting any girls when there's like 2 guys you're competing with for 1 girl and they're way older than you.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's just, it was an uphill battle. But in Canada, that didn't matter. So that was, I think, the first steps towards maturity that you have to go through, I would say, going through relationships.
Yeah, so kind of looking at the food, because I love talking about food too. What was the food like in Venezuela?
So it's not spicy.
Yeah.
And we ate a lot of seafood. So I live by the sea, so we ate a lot of seafood. Like I literally lived in the interjection of 2 seas.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of seafood.
Yeah, I had 1 sea on the west, I think, or whatever, on my left. I had the sea there constantly, and then I could walk 5 minutes north, and then there would be another sea.
Okay. Yeah, and so what type of spices do you guys use? Do you guys use very many spices?
No, okay. Really. Like salt, pepper, lime, lots of fruits. It was really just seafood, I think, for me. And there's the traditional Venezuelan foods that I think we eat a ton of, which are like cornmeal, and that's the one I ate the most. But it's mostly seafood. We ate like shark. Shark was a big thing that we ate, but not the fin, like everything.
Yeah. That's got to be a cultural shock to go from that food to walking through. I can see why going through like Chinatown, you'd have a hard time at first, because those are like
it's the
very,
smells.
very different.
I mean, like eating 1 jalapeno from Subway would make my head tingle from the spice. So just being exposed to all this stuff was all at once. It was overwhelming, but it exists for a reason. So I wanted to give it a shot. So it made me definitely someone that wants to try things for himself before committing to an opinion.
Yeah. So while you were at the secondary school, did you do like sports? You seem like you'd be a sports guy, but I didn't want to label you.
I did a lot more sports in Venezuela actually, because
Okay.
we were one of the top schools in our city too for sports. Even though we had 100 kids and we didn't even have kids for all the ages, but we just played every sport. Like the team was just one team really that played basketball, football. So like we just were super athletic because all the time we're playing sports. Recess was all about playing sports or playing on the computer. So yeah, I did a lot of sports back then, but in Vancouver, I didn't do that many. I mean, the sport I was doing was sailing
Mhm.
most of the time, so I was doing sports in schools and sailing. Um, but in Canada, no.
Okay, so what did you do in like a lot of your free time while you were like not going to school? Was it just meeting girls? Was it hanging out with friends? Like, what were you
I
mostly
don't
doing
know.
there?
Probably gaming.
Gaming?
My guess, yeah, gaming or
Okay.
spending time with some friends. I was playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh was what got me into League of Legends.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
that's what
through a
did it.
friend.
Okay. That's a very interesting. How do you make a transition from Yu-Gi-Oh to League of Legends? Just he was playing it one day and you were like, "Oh, I want to try this."
No, I just met a friend that we played Yu-Gi-Oh together at tournaments at
Yeah.
school and outside, and we are like, "Hey, you want to just play League of Legends?" Like, yeah, sure. Or we played Dota, sorry, Dota before, and then we went into League of Legends after. But through
Mhm.
meeting him through Yu-Gi-Oh was how I ended up with League.
Okay. So one of the things you mentioned in a previous interview is that you're kind of a risk taker, and that you like to take risks. Has this something that has kind of always been with you? That you've always been willing to take risk and try new things? Because you even mentioned like the Chinese food. Like, hey, I'm gonna give it a shot and see what happens before I make a judgment on it. And that is even if it's a very basic, it's still like almost like a risky behavior because like your experience with it was like, oh my god, I can't handle this. To yeah, I need to try this to see if I actually like this or not. So is that something that's always been with you?
I don't know if it's risky, appetite for risk taking as much as disregard for self-preservation.
Okay. Okay.
Right? I mean, because I just don't think things are as bad as people make them out to be. That's usually what it is. I think most things, like how bad can it be? Like I just think about most scenarios and think, well, what's the realistic scenario, or like
Mhm.
what really could be happen here? Not necessarily what's the worst or what's the best, but rather, you know, all the all the gradients of that act, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that's really not that bad. There's no way it could, and if it gets that bad, like, I could probably figure out what to do next then.
I mean it's worked for you up to this point, so
Yeah, and all the things that I think risks appear riskier in hindsight,
that's
not during doing them.
maybe. I don't know about that one. But maybe. So one of the cool things about you is you actually started off going to college and you started off with a BA in English and literature when you were going to school. What made you decide to do that at the University of British Columbia? What made you pick, hey, I want to do English and literature? That seems like a very kind of like very opposite of what your parents did, kind of. One of them was an architect, the other one was an engineer. That's like pretty left field comparative.
Well, they're also big time into art. They're
Okay.
writers and poets as well.
Oh
So
wow.
they definitely did that. Um, but I chose that because it was the only thing available to get into that university. Yeah, there was no other reason. I was like,
Okay.
how can I
Why?
get into this university as easily and hassle free as possible if I just type in my grades? But yeah, sure, this degree, that's fine. And there you go.
So were you not a very good student? Were you a good student in high school?
Well, see, it depends because I feel like school doesn't teach you,
I
it
agree with that.
teaches you how to. I learned that I didn't have to learn school. I needed to convince the teacher that I was fulfilling the quota that they wanted to meet. So I wasn't a good student. I was good at showing the teacher, hey, look, I did this. Give me good grades. Um,
So, like, how did you do that? Like, what is an example of doing that?
well, I think it's just doing the bare minimum and kind of just knowing what the teacher is expecting and then just
Yeah.
showing it versus I diving into a topic and thinking I want to learn this for myself. So I felt that way about most subjects, except some classes that were very interesting, like auto body welding and repair, very hands-on project oriented classes. We had some of those, or using the computer, or just a much more hands-on work than things like social studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I agree, though. I don't really particularly like the way that a lot of our public education is taught in the United States, and I imagine it's fairly similar to Canada, to be honest.
I think the school I had was pretty good though, compared to all of them. We got lucky because I think my parents selected the area because, the schools you go to depend on the district that you're in and whatnot. So I think it was because of that.
Mm-hmm. So why did you want to go to University of British Columbia so bad that you'd be willing to take any degree?
It was the only university because it was the best university. I was like, all right, let's just go here. As a kid, you're told, hey, you go to university.
Yeah.
Right, you got to go to university. You got to go to university. I hated it. I didn't want to go to university.
What do you want to do instead?
All the portals. I didn't know.
Okay.
All the portals all the things people were telling you to do is just to apply through these things online. So I found the only one that didn't require an immediate giant speech from me, or essay from me. They just wanted my grades, and it was that portal. So I just typed it in. It's like, there, it's done. See, I'm in.
Wow, that is like. Were you upset that you had to go to college? Was that something that you really didn't want to? Because I didn't. I feel like I got suckered into going into college, kind of.
Well, no, I was just not thinking about college. Like, I had just moved, right? And I just only spent 2 years in high school there. So I just barely got an understanding of this new country. And I felt like college is now telling me, hey, figure out now what you want to do within this new country. Like, well, I don't even know this country. Like, how could I possibly know what I want to be doing? So that's how I felt.
Okay. So you start going to British Columbia. Did you move out of your house to live there?
I was living at home, and the university was far. Another reason why I didn't enjoy it.
Okay. That commute must have sucked then.
Oh, yeah. In Canada, too, it's very cold.
Yeah. I
Not
imagine it's
fun.
similar to Upper Michigan. So, very cold. I
Probably
never want to
better.
live in snow.
Probably better than Upper Michigan.
Maybe. We get a lot of lake effect because of Lake Superior, so.
Well, I'm saying your weather is probably worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, it still sucks. Cold weather sucks. I hate cold weather. So that's why I moved. I never want to live in a cold area again. Unless I'm making mega dollar bills, I never want to live in a cold area again. And I will only live temporarily. It will be like a 5-year commitment, and then I'm leaving with my mega $1 million. So.
Yeah, that's Florida for you.
Yeah, it's nice. I won't lie. Compared to LA, I like Florida a lot actually. So minus the humidity. The humidity sucks, but the cost of living is so much cheaper that it makes it worth it. To be honest. So
the sun is better in Florida.
Yeah. So looking at school, what was university like for you? Because I know you ended up leaving university.
I didn't go.
Yeah, really?
Not at all? I mean, yeah, sure, I went, but university was just not interesting. It was boring. I didn't really know anybody. And again, I was still younger by a year, and it showed. I have not always looked the way I look now. I looked like a complete baby.
Okay.
Big baby before. And all I wanted to do was just learn about the things that I wanted to learn and do. But there are all these hoops and barriers that you have to go through, taking all these additional classes, and then showing up to all those things was a bit of a problem. And I was still having a hard time finding my bearing in university. So sometimes I would just skip class just to listen to music. Sometimes I'd skip class just to go play League. Sometimes I just wouldn't go. I would just show up to the university and then just sit outside chilling.
Oh,
I just did not want to go, and I didn't enjoy what they were teaching me. I felt like it was slow, expensive. I like the discussion groups. So like I actually went to the things that I felt like were adding value. So for example, there was a philosophy class. I didn't like the class because to me, the class was always interrupted by some douchebag in the front taking up the professor's time, asking some dumbass question. And then we never get through anything. But the discussion was maybe 10 people in a room just discussing over what just happened and like having a conversation and really getting to know what's going on and going in depth about things. So I didn't miss a single class of those. And those weren't even for grades. Like those were just a show, like that barely counted towards your grades. And I would show up to those. So like I wanted to do the things that were interesting to me. That was it. So there was another class that I took that was for journalism. So I just volunteered to go to the school newspaper to start doing interviews and learning around the campus. And again, had nothing to do with grades, but I still wanted to do it. And that was university for me, where I just didn't find that many things that I wanted to do there that lined up with success through their curriculum.
Yeah. Was there anything that you were super passionate about that you wanted to explore and you just weren't able to?
No, not at the time. I just felt like, I think in hindsight, I would have definitely have been somebody to take a break year. I think that's really what needed to happen there. And I was like, I need more time to figure it out. Like whatever answer I come up with is likely to be rushed.
I would have liked a break year too, to be honest, because I struggled through college until I finally figured out like what the fuck I was doing. And even now, like I look back and I'm like, wow, if I would have waited a little bit longer, I think I would have still made a different choice. But I found something that I could like, I liked it enough that I was able to do it. And I'm like, yeah, this works. So, and now looking back, I'm like, damn, am I going to go back to school again? Because I'm thinking about it. And it's interesting being almost 30 and thinking, yeah, maybe I'll go back to school. So
yeah, you definitely would enjoy it because you'd want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this time, you mentioned doing a lot of different things. And I know that like you started being a pro in 2012. So I imagine this was probably getting close to the same time that you were playing a ton of League of Legends. And spending a lot of time in that, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice that slowly start to take up just more and more of your time?
No, I just noticed that my grades were dropping. That was it.
That was it.
I don't even think the grades were high at any point in university, actually. So I can't even say they were dropping. They were just always reflecting what input I was giving.
Uh-huh. How did your parents know about it?
Yeah, I mean they didn't know how badly my grades were, but they had to work. At that point, I was trusted to just do my, be a grown up as a kid. They were trusting me to sail, right? Like I was giving you the details of how that is, and I think for an 8-year-old to start at that, is I think more trust than sometimes some parents give their kids now, and in school. And other areas of my life, I think that was also reflected.
Uh-huh. So as you start playing more and more League of Legends, when did it become a possibility that, hey, I could maybe do this for a while and make money at it?
When I substituted for Epic Gamer for IPL 3, and then we got second place, and I got $1,000 from it, I thought, okay, I guess there's money in this. I still was just so ignorant to everything about it. And the biggest opportunity that I received then would have been to move to the TSM house. They made the first gaming house for League in the East Coast in New York. But I still hadn't quit out of university. I didn't feel it right at the time. I just felt like I wasn't going to enjoy being with that group of people.
Mm-hmm.
That was the primary.
That was the
factor
Bay
for me.
Life saga, wasn't it? Or very close to
Yeah,
that.
that was the Bay Life saga. It was essentially saying, "Do you want to join the Bay Life saga?" It's like, no.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I try to forget about that. I think so does TSM. I think TSM also tries to forget.
No, they don't. I don't think it was bad. I just didn't think it was for me.
Okay. I thought it was kind of cringe, but I don't know. Maybe this.
Listen, you can't hate on cringe if TikTok is.
That's true. Thing. TikTok is a thing. Right. You are completely
cringe
correct.
Is necessary. We need cringe.
That's true. You're right. You know what? I take it all back. You are completely right. We do need some cringe in the world. So at what point are you like, okay, I'm going to drop out of school? And what was that conversation with your parents like? Were they okay with it? Were they like, what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, I can tell you with certainty that I don't remember it very well now. But I know that my mom was very upset about it for a while. And at the start, of course, they didn't understand because they hadn't really seen any gradual build up to it, let alone an understanding of the space. But they were very tech savvy. They taught me how to use computers through their business of teaching computers in Venezuela, or how to use computers. So they definitely knew that I was going to be good with computers, and I was doing that from a very young age anyways. They were supportive. I think they just realized they didn't have a choice. Like, that's what I was going to do, and I wasn't happy with the other things. So after a while, my dad, learned the game and just started just watching some of the game. Yeah, I think that's about it. I just know that it wasn't good at first, and they had to overcome their disapproval of it.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm assuming that they support you full-heartedly due to the fact that you're in you're in a pretty prestigious position, I would say.
Well, I mean, I'm a 27-year-old man. They don't have to say.
But I mean, the being proud of your children and stuff like that. I imagine that I would hope that they're proud of you. It's pretty impressive.
I think they are. I hope, but
I hope so.
I'm just doing my thing.
Okay. So, kind of looking at your career as a pro player, you went through the league, and as it grew and changed, and I've heard some stories about it, and I still don't think it's where I would like to see esports to be, the way they still have team houses and stuff like that, which I personally don't like them at all. But you went through the Wild West, I would say, of League of Legends. You went through before LCS into LCS. What was that experience like? Seeing League of Legends grow to the point it is now.
Let me think about this.
Yeah, you're good.
When it was before, I think we didn't even play. We played just for fun, right? You played just because you wanted to play the game. You didn't have a contract breathing down your neck. You didn't have a salary saying you were playing because there was a tournament coming up that you wanted to play and do well in. Mm-hmm. And these are your friends that you played with. And suddenly you and your friends are playing, and okay, the tournaments were worth more. And the people that played the tournament streamed. That was it, right? That's what it was. We were just playing to play in tournaments, and we're like, oh, I guess we're pretty good. Like, oh, I know those guys. It's the same team from last tournament, or the second place team from last tournament, etc. So that was a lot of what was going down, where it was a highly social solo queue, and a very social team scene at the amateur level. One day, we get an email from Riot saying, and this was when we became Team Dignitas. So Riot sends an email saying, hey, we want to talk to you guys. We have a presentation to show you. And they show us their plan, the deck for the LCS. And we're like, I guess it's cool. We don't get it.
Yeah, a bunch of 19-year-olds who mostly dropped out of
it's
college
cool.
or like just playing games for fun, and they show you the pitch deck, expecting you to be like,
Well, it wasn't the biz pitch deck. The pitch deck to us, I think, I don't think it had numbers, money numbers in it. But yeah, they showed us that, and we're like, okay, I guess that's cool. And then they said, yeah, you will qualify for this through these tournaments, and these are the teams that will go, and this is how it'll function. We're like, okay, I guess. But then we were at the top of the rankings for that, so we thought, oh, cool, we can definitely make it. So we're like, oh, I guess this is what we're doing now. That sounds fun, right? They're gonna give us money to keep playing. We're like, okay, yeah, I'll take money to keep playing. So we just kept doing that, and I try-harded on those tournaments a lot. Although that's not true. I trolled them as well.
I mean, wasn't there one tournament where you literally ditched out to go meet a girl?
No, that was LCS.
Oh.
But there was one of these tournaments that gave us points for this that we A-rammed. But I think we didn't lose the points because we still placed. We just lost the prize pool.
Oh, so I think I remember that. That was a huge debacle too. Like I remember there being.
Yeah, it was dumb. Yeah, so we just transitioned from wanting to play the game for fun into I guess this is what we're doing. Like I don't think the people around me knew what was happening. I certainly didn't. I just was going with what we were doing.
At what point does it change from being just fun to being a job? Because I imagine that with that shift, it also brings like different perspectives and expectations, which causes a lot of issues if everyone isn't on the same page.
I think it's just an attitude shift. I think you can still view it for fun right now. But if I had to say, it's when winning becomes too important, when it becomes a job. Because I think a job is more results oriented. And so you focus on the result that is most valuable to your team, which is a win. And so you're just going crazy for it. Whereas focusing on fun can still lead you to do the same behaviors as focusing for the same outcome while saving you the trouble of wanting to kill yourself and your teammates.
Yeah. Do you think that that's kind of an issue that we have now where too many people are focused on winning versus like the experience and maybe even having fun?
It's hard to put that on other people. It's hard for me to say when another player is playing because they enjoy it. I don't know what what them playing for enjoyment looks like.
Yeah.
I think that what I would like to see is players at the top of their game or maybe at a plateau be willing to give themselves a change in attitude to see if that will take them to higher highs. Because I definitely see correlations in everything that the people that are having the most fun are also having the most success.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you played through a few different teams. You played through Team Dignitas. You were on Misfits NA, Renegades for a bit, Team Dragon Knights for a bit before that whole debacle. I kind of want to delve into that a little bit. The Renegades Team Dragon Knights debacle. From a player point of view, how stressful was that?
Not at all. We didn't see it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
That had nothing to do with us. We just, the players are race horses, right? You got blinders and you're in front of a monitor. Go play.
Interesting. Okay.
But I know some teams have scenarios where I think it's a lot more messy.
Yeah.
But this was not one of them, at least from my end. But I'm also someone that I know teams don't really try to mess with or know I'm just not going to give them the time of day. Mm-hmm. If somebody starts yelling at me and annoying me, I'm not going to stand there and yell back at them. I'm just going to walk away.
Mm-hmm. Were you a difficult player to coach?
I didn't even have a coach.
Oh, well, JK. Well, I thought you did for like Renegades.
We had like one player. I mean, we got into some arguments times. I honestly, I can't tell you, dude. I only had that one coach, so I have a hard time
Okay.
saying that I was difficult or not. But I know that I heard from players that I then coached that they very much liked how I coached and they thought that I had done a good job. So I think that if I'm capable of delivering good coaching, then I think I know how to take it as well. But I'm sure that at the time I was much dumber and stubborn than I am now. Much more stubborn.
Okay. At what point are you thinking, hey, I think I'm done being a pro player?
When I didn't get a contract renewed, that was it.
Was that scary at all? Was that like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? Because I know that for a lot of people, contract work is really terrifying when those moments happen.
No, no, like when I didn't get when Envy bought the Renegade spot and then didn't rehire me.
Yeah.
They didn't keep me on as a jungler.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I knew, well, I missed the timing. Like, even if I had an opportunity, I missed the train. I have to wait another half year. So I was like, I don't want to wait another half year. That was really it. No, I just took it as, I'll take it as a sign. Let's just end it here.
So after that is because I know you founded the or co-founded the head of esports agent, or your head of esports. You were the head of the esports for an agency in 2016. Was it shortly after that that you founded that?
I don't remember actually what those two events time wise were when, but I don't think they were very related. And yeah, that was something that was a project, me just delving into the world that was just entering game esports at the time.
Mm-hmm. What made you want to delve into it?
The guy that started it was the guy that was Paris Hilton's manager for 10 years.
Oh, and he just like came up to you like he sent you a message and was like, hey, do you want to start an esports agency?
Yeah.
Huh.
At a conference, yeah.
That seems very random.
If it's not random, what is? I mean, I don't see what other way things happen, right?
That's maybe.
I just think about it like, how else would I meet this guy? Is what I thought. Like,
yeah, I mean,
how else would it happen? So I just thought, oh, that's a cool chance. I know who Paris Hilton was, so I thought someone having done this line of work is probably going to be very useful in the future when it comes to the direction that esports is going. So that's what I thought.
Okay, so what was it like being part of an agency then?
It's not that exciting, man. I mean, maybe if you're at something like CAA, like some giant worldwide thing where you have a multitude of departments and clients, sure. But otherwise, it's like a lot of the work today. It's just emails. You're just sending out emails and taking calls for other people.
Well, I mean, like Ryan Morrison, for example, from ETA, always like posts on the time, like complaining about like different teams or people doing like really shady stuff. So I wasn't sure if you had any experience with some of that stuff that happens.
Sure, yeah. There's bad stuff going on, but it's like, from my perspective, it's a lot of just really getting into the dirty parts of somebody else's business. Like, it feels like you're really working for somebody else. Like, you truly are. Like, I think that's what it is at the core of it as an agent. Like, you're truly working for your clients. And so it feels like an area that I just was not that experienced in that care. I mean, from sailing, one of the most isolated things that you could do, I'd say, to, hey, can you take care of all these people, these very young players that are even dumber than when I was in there.
That's fair.
And as a startup, it was a, how do I put it? It was just an emotional job.
Okay. Do you think that you weren't really ready for it? Is that something that you felt way out of your league for?
No, it's not that I was way out of my league. It was just not what I thought it was. I had a different idea. I had a different idea in my head of what it would be. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, this is not what I thought it would be. I guess as you think of the end goal and not the process to get there, but you have to like the process, not the end goal. Yeah. And I realized I'm not with the process, so I don't care what the end goal looks like. I'm not going to get there.
That makes sense. Completely. So 2017 comes around and you decided to do some shoutcasting and move to Korea. And I remember seeing the video of your little Korea apartment that was very small. Yeah, that was good. Very small.
I miss it. I wish I had a place that size here.
Really?
Yeah, if I could. This place I'm in is too giant. If I could have a room that was a bed and a computer, and even then, I'd be fine. You don't need that much. Like a kitchen is nice, but if my living situation can make up for the cost of food, then I'll take that. Just a bed. I don't need anything else.
Okay. I mean, I can't imagine that because I like cooking so much. I love cooking. And so like not having a kitchen seems like I don't know if I could do it. So.
You just have a really small kitchen. You saw that video with the little...
Yeah. That wasn't a kitchen. That was like... That was like one of those cook burner stoves that you can buy for like camping.
What else do you need to cook though? As long as you have the fire, you're good to go.
Oh my God. I need a 4-burner stove. I need multiple feet of countertop so I can cut and move around. And yeah, I want a bigger kitchen than I have now. And this is the biggest kitchen I've ever had. So I love kitchen. Oh gosh, I love kitchens.
So now you're making me hungry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can eat here shortly. So you decided to go shoutcast. How did that come about? Did they randomly reach out to you one day? Were you looking into it? How did you go from transitioning to being a pro player to doing some agency work to, hey, let's give shoutcasting a try?
When I started as a player, I realized there was more to it than just playing the game. There was a lot of media and press around it. And I figured that since I had dropped out of college and I wasn't going to go back, I should do my best to know as much of what this space was and see if there was a way out of it forward. And I just took as many interviews as possible, talked to as many people as I could. And then I realized, there's a natural transition here. And by doing that, I started getting a lot more interviews from Riot to be on the show itself. Like, let's do a post-game interview with Crumbz, right? Because they pick who to interview after a game. So, they picked this guy. He talks well. He talks a lot. And they invited me onto the World's desk for season 3 onwards. Mm-hmm. And from that, I started to know, okay, I definitely have an option here. And I had spoken to Riot casually of like, hey, we'd be interested in you becoming a caster whenever you're done playing. And so when I had stopped being on Renegades, I always knew I could do casting right now. The option is on the table, but I could do a little bit of coaching first and know that the option of casting will still be on the table and only reinforced by coaching. So that's how I stacked those.
Okay. So why'd you go to Spo TV instead of working for Riot?
So I had initially signed the contract with Riot, but they took too long with their visa. So through a stress that I won't get into, just unnecessary, it didn't work out because of the visa just taking too long. I just was anxious and wanted to get to work and went to Spo TV in Korea, which actually, funnily enough, could have also gone to OGN had I accepted the offer much sooner, because there were other offers as well. I think that's the one where Atlas ended up in LCK.
Okay. So at this time of going to Spo TV, you also started, you're a founding member of Framerate Esports Networking. What exactly was Framerate Esports Networking? Because I didn't really hear much about it other than when I researched you a little bit.
What do you think it is?
It's supposed to deliver news, right? And networking. I thought that's what it was supposed to do, but I didn't know.
Okay. That's what you get from the name. Good to know. So a guy reached out to me because I knew someone at another team that I worked for before, and he has been an entrepreneur in the media space before.
Okay.
And he had made a company called Rooster, which is essentially an online manager for YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to make a similar thing for coaching in gaming and wanted me to be a part of it. So I signed up for it because at the time I was doing classes with like Gamer Sensei, and I was doing coaching on my own for money, as well as pro guides. So I was like, you know what, it comes right in my alley and I can learn from this person. So we signed up, and I was supposed to create some of those programs and help out and kind of do a lot of the figuring out who's somebody that's a good candidate and whatnot. Yeah. But quickly we realized that nobody was going to pay for these things because it's all available for free online, on YouTube, on Twitch. Like, you know, you can just watch from the best. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it became a platform for user submitted content where we incentivize users through prizes or money to submit highlights. And then with those highlights, we just create a channel of highlights. And those highlights got to go on Instagram, and it became the 4th largest gaming channel on Instagram. And then the guy sold it for over $2 million. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, that's all him. That's all him. Yeah.
That's impressive, though. So I'm not. That actually brings me up to another question. This is kind of, I think, almost an. I don't know if it's an issue in esports, but it feels like people in esports are not really willing to spend money. Like, I feel like a lot of people, like the audience of esports doesn't feel like it's really willing to spend a ton of money, just because of like everything being so, I would say, freely available. Because I know like Monty has talked about potentially doing like paywalls for things, and that might be a good way for esports to generate income. But like the thing people bring up is like, would people actually pay for this? Do you think that there's an issue there with like esports fans like not wanting to spend a ton of money? Like if you look at like sports, I know that the fans spend an incredible amount of money in comparison.
It's not that they don't want to spend money. It's that there's not products that line up with what people want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
People will buy anything, right? Like, it's not a matter of does the quality of this thing line up with a human's desire to spend money on it. Like, people will buy gamer girl bathwater. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It's about the audience, and is that the right product for that right audience? So I think that the problem has been a lack of products being created that makes people want to buy them. The quality needs to be there.
Okay. What type of products do you think that people would like to see more of? Like if you could suddenly put things into creation.
Clothing, right? Clothing sells like hotcakes, and look at 100 Thieves just running laps around everyone. People have yet to even tie their shoes on this race. Like, oh shit, 100 Thieves already on the 3rd lap. No, we're still lacing up.
Mm-hmm.
Most clothing from teams suck, but it's getting better. It's getting better. Yeah, I think that's the big one I think of right now.
Kind of adding on to that, what do you think about the content that's being produced right now related to like esports? I feel like a lot of it isn't very good. Like there are some teams that I think do a much better job than others, but then there are teams that just their content I think is awful. Or it's regurgitated content that we've literally seen so many times, like the like let's follow everyone around with a camera and get their reactions to things as things are going. I hate that content so much.
I'm not too familiar with a lot of teams' content because I think it's shit, and I don't watch it. But what I do watch is, I like to follow more of what I consider people that break the medium, that just want to explore new ways of showing the same things on the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So different ways to come up with Instagram stories. So for example, instead of telling a story in one sheet, I've seen some people make it so that the story is multiple lines, but with each tap a new line shows up or a new image appears, so more engaging for the person. Or there's a lot of different ways to explore the medium itself. I think that's one thing that is lacking severely in gaming, in esports, where we're very focused on the immediate quality of what is being shown, not how it is being shown.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, I think that speed is more important than ever. And the turnaround and relevancy of your content might matter more than what you're actually putting out. Like
That's fair.
If it's timely and you catch your audience exactly when they want it, then the engagement, the results are just going to be so much greater. So I think that the production style that teams are going for is making their content be delivered in an untimely manner, which makes it less successful, which reinforces the notion that it is not good content because nobody's watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So you worked with Spo TV for about a year. And then you ended up going to, after like another year, I think it was another year, you went to Blizzard to work with Overwatch, which is where we met, which is such a good experience.
That's right.
Probably, I don't know if it's such a good experience to you because you left Blizzard, but, and now there's like a whole bunch of shit on Blizzard. What made you jump from League of Legends to deciding to cast Overwatch instead of maybe going back to Riot and casting League of Legends?
Just to say I could.
Just to say you and your fucking fuck it. I just need your fucking attitude. I love it.
I was like, well, I could do this for a few more years. I was in Korea. I was having a great life there. And I thought, yeah, I could do this for more time. But then I thought, what does that look like? Like, well, that looks like exactly what this year was. And the next one, but just with more Korean in it. That's what I thought. It's like, that doesn't sound too thrilling. So it's like, fuck it. Let's just go try Overwatch, see if we can do this. If I can, then great. I'll figure something new out. And if I can't, I'm pretty sure I have a skill set that is in demand somewhere. So I'll be fine.
Okay, that's fair. So I guess my question for you then is, because you obviously left Overwatch, was it something that you couldn't do and you just didn't feel comfortable doing it, or were there other reasons why you left?
Well, they didn't get me a rehired contract. I would have stayed had I gotten a contract again.
Okay. How did you like working for Blizzard comparative to working for Riot?
I didn't like working there. Yeah.
Okay.
I felt like there was a lot of, what do you call it? Censorship. That's the word. Yes, there's a lot of I felt like there was censorship and not the respect that I was hoping to get. And same thing from my peers that were coming in from other games, because I think that, and the way I saw it, and I think in hindsight, it was selfish of me to see it this way. I should have done more to give first. But I saw it as I was coming into this new place. I want to be reciprocated with the gesture that we were going to welcome someone that wants to stick here and be here for a long time for like a very big, cool project. And so I kind of was hoping that was how it was going to be received for a lot of the talent, because I felt like, they had a mastermind plan of choosing this talent to just drive home for the next few years a great esports product. But it wasn't that. And so I felt immediately very disappointed, and that's my own fault for those expectations. But I think that we could have definitely saved it together, just made the whole thing stick through. And once I got disappointed and disillusioned, my input significantly decreased, which made everything, I think, a lot worse. And there was a time when the frustrations behind the censorship were so rampant that everybody was disillusioned, which just made everything much worse, but it was still a great experience for the people. The people that I was working immediately with were really a blast. But other things like being lied to about things and then knowing that other people had been lied to was not cool.
So when you say censorship, what do you mean by censorship? Do you mean like you had an idea that you wanted to do out and they just shut you down, or like are we talking like?
Yeah, if I want to call Shanghai Dragons bad, I should be able to call Shanghai Dragons bad. Like, why can I not call it? Why can't I make a segment that shows the Shanghai Dragons compared to all the other professional leagues in the world in North America and say that the Shanghai Dragons now have the largest losing streak in North America? Because in the eyes of Blizzard and the Shanghai Dragons, I'm belittling the Shanghai Dragons. I'm making fun of them. I'm saying they're bad, and people won't watch them if they think they're bad.
Yeah.
In my eyes, people will watch them. They don't give a shit if they're good or bad, as long as it's entertaining and we give them a reason to watch. And number two, I'm doing more for the league than the team by creating a comparison between Overwatch League, a baby, and comparing it to national leagues of established legitimacy. To just put those three together, when the viewer sees that, he now gives the same authority to the Overwatch League as the NBA, as the NFL. So I thought, I'm here thinking I'm doing a great segment for the Overwatch League. I'm doing something fantastic for delivering home the real message, which is this is a really big deal. They wanted the message of the Shanghai Dragons are the greatest thing ever. They're just having a bad time.
That seems very disingenuous for like an overall broadcast. Just like not being like, you have to have bad team. Like you're gonna have like bad teams most likely, right? Like it's very unlikely that you don't have some bad teams and like calling that out.
It's the way that it is expressed in traditional sports, I think. And you can correct me if I'm wrong because I don't watch traditional sports anymore. But I think they are a lot meaner in esports and from the streamer culture towards the losing team than they are in gaming. Or sorry, in traditional sports, especially from the commentator's point of view. Or from the analysts.
Yeah, I don't know.
From what I have heard from sports commentators, they really won't go that ham on someone.
Huh. Well, I mean, that's
in fact, they just won't address it. They're just more narrators. It's like radio narration. You're not really giving your opinion.
Yeah.
It's more like you are there to guide the eyes of the viewer. So
you obviously decided to leave Blizzard, and was it like pretty like welcoming back arms for Riot? They were like, Crumbz, please come back, we've missed you.
Well, once again, I just was not given a re-signing. I would have definitely stayed.
Yeah.
No, you see, when I left Riot the first time, I knew that I wouldn't be doing a good job to Overwatch if I didn't leave Riot thinking that it was going to be the last time. So I went to Overwatch thinking that League was done.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't watch League for that year. I didn't play League for a year. It was all Overwatch. So when I left, I wasn't thinking of going back to Riot either. It was only after speaking to someone that was a former player handler there that told me, hey, I think there might be interested if you're interested. So I hit them up. They were interested. And I was back.
Okay. Do you like working for Riot a lot more comparative to Blizzard? Is this something that you just enjoy doing?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that for my end, and I don't know how it is for a lot of people, but I value relationships a lot more based on the time that it has been put into them. So I know so many people at Riot for so long now. Like, there's some people they've seen me as a player they're still working there. They have interviewed me. Right? I have given responses to the same segments that I am now building or helping build.
Yeah.
So I think that adds value to those relationships, and I feel a lot more comfortable speaking as a subject matter expert on the league because I know the players, not necessarily because of the game, but because I know exactly what the players' attitudes might be or how to read those within the game. And I think that allows me to be a lot more confident in my own thoughts and express them in a way that I'm going to be able to fight through whatever censorship might want to be imposed, because it's not like Riot isn't without any censorship. I mean, any broadcast has its own limits, but I understand within Riot what language I need to use, how do I propose it, how do I spin it, because it's very easy for me to, for example, if I want to make, in my eyes, a fail montage, I want to say that a player has been doing really badly, I could request B-roll and say, B-roll for failed plays for this person. That's going to get my segment likely not made because it's saying failed for this player. And I don't want to convey that a player is failing. But if I say just the specifics of what I want, this play that happened at 10 minutes or this thing, and I want to highlight areas of improvement. I'm showing the exact same clips, the exact same thing, but I changed a little bit of how I'm showing it, and I can get away with saying that. And I think that's a lesson that I also learned within Blizzard, but not one that I learned quickly enough to apply there.
That makes sense. So what does the future hold for you? Are you someone who's just all in on Riot for here on out? Are you looking at other games potentially in the future? Like, I don't know. I know Monty is looking at possibly doing some stuff with. He's going to be doing some stuff with Counter-Strike coming for here. I know that other casters have looked at elsewhere in the past. Or are you just all in on Riot?
I don't know what the future holds. Although I am definitely not all in from my actions.
Yeah, that's right. Because you did cast a Fortnite event.
Yeah, I cast Fortnite. I did a show with Cloud9 last year. I'm doing a show with FlyQuest this year. I have involvement with what do you call it? Data analytics company that I put some money into that as an investor. So no, I don't think that I'm all in, and that's not because of a lack of desire to be all in, but rather want to spread myself amongst multiple areas. And so one of those is, I think, a broader sense of emerging digital media, because esports is a tiny drop in that giant ocean, which is really the ocean that is moving everything, not the esports side.
Yeah.
So I think I see a future in that. As for a broadcast that I like, it's always Riot. Absolutely. And it's just, it's League of Legends. It's the LCS, that, like, more specific. Like, that's the place that I definitely feel comfortable in and an absolute expert on.
Mm-hmm. So you got to do this Fortnite event. What did you think of Fortnite in comparison to, like, both League of Legends and Overwatch? Because it's a very different game. I've coached actually a lot of Fortnite players. They tend to come in from mental skills coaching a lot of the time because of the way the game works, which is kind of cool. Yeah, because
it's all the streamers, right? It's not pro. It's nothing pro. It's all streamers. Yeah. So it's exactly what League is. If you crank the dial all the way towards the streamer side and away from the pro side, that's the way I see it. I don't see any differences in them. I see the same thing, just in a different part of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy casting it though? Was it something that you found like fun and enlightening?
Yeah, it's nice. I cast it as a play-by-play, so I get to yell and get excited. So that's the big difference in it for me. I'm not so much of the big brain analytical part of it. And it's interesting because in Fortnite, obviously there's not as much depth as in League.
Yeah.
So there is the depth. It's just not so massive. And it's just a refreshing thing, different language, different style, different people, but kind of the same kind of work. So it's like a new flavor to a new improved flavor of an old classic almost.
So with that, I was going to ask you, do you still like follow any Overwatch or the stuff going on in Overwatch?
Do I watch Overwatch League? No.
No, I don't care if you watch the Overwatch League. I meant like the kind of like the move. So like for example, like the YouTube situation, them moving over to YouTube and like that. Being
Oh
like,
yes, yeah. I watch. I absolutely follow in all the other esports and what affects them at the developer level, their esports level, and how it affects my coworkers and friends over there. So I'm absolutely aware of the situation that's happening there in that regard. And to an extent, what teams do well, what players are doing well, what salaries are like, who's doing what, where are they living, how are they flying, like what's the situation. Like, yeah, I'll follow the scene, but I'm not going to watch the game.
Yeah, I don't I don't blame you there. What do you think about how everything has been going on with Overwatch League as well as the Call of Duty League? Because for me, it seems kind of terrifying. Just because like Blizzard's a huge company and there was a lot of money that investors put in, and if it doesn't do well, like I think it's going to have ramifications across the scene to a degree, just because of how much money was put in. And I was wondering if, like, what you felt about that. Do you think that that's probably true, that it's not doing well or it is doing well, and if that could have ramifications on the scene as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'll be like an earthquake. Right? Everybody will feel some of it, but at varying strengths.
Yeah.
Will I personally get hit? Maybe. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that whatever hit will happen, it's not a big deal. The more I think about it now, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I think Blizzard has so much money that they're going to be able to put all of that money in front of the car accident so that it just slows down so much before anything major really happens. Mm-hmm. And if and when it does, the entire space is emerging digital media. Again, it's not esports. Mm-hmm. People are still going to believe in that. It's not going to obliterate the esports idea. And it's because it's going to fuel that aspect of it. People are just going to look at the esports model in a different way, saying this was a failed approach.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's a failed concept.
Okay. I think they picked the wrong for that concept. I think it could work. I just don't know if Overwatch was the game to do it in, or Call of Duty for that matter.
I mean, I think my biggest problem is you're focusing on an emerging new market based on digital and prioritizing physical structures as your main deliverable.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a very good idea. Also, their travel schedule is literally fucking insane. Like, some of those teams, it is crazy how much they have to fucking travel.
Yeah, I've seen it. 76,000 miles.
Yeah, like that is so much. Like that's I won't lie, from like the mental health perspective, part of me worries about that. Cuz like all we need is something like really bad to happen, like someone get really burnt out or someone go into like a mental health crisis, and I think that will also have a lot of effects on the scene. So, cuz we haven't had too many cases of like, there's been a couple but not a whole ton of like people, like for example,
I think if that happens, we'll be fine. I think people's memories are way too short anyways to even give a shit.
That's true. There's a lot of bad shit that happens that we literally just forget.
As tragic as things might get, I don't think people care. I think they'll forget. They'll move on to the next tragic thing or the next great thing, and they'll forget by next week. They won't remember Who died? Who died last week? Right? People like, who? LeBron? No, he's still no. It was Kobe. They'll forget.
That's sad.
Why?
I don't know. It's like it's interesting that our society has come to a point where we just like kind of normalize bad events for happening. I've thought about this a lot, right? Like how we can normalize just bad events happening all the time. We're like, it's just another Tuesday. Which I mean is probably something to like a coping mechanism that's probably healthy, right? Because if you, with how many bad things happen, if you let them all bother you, then you would probably shut down. But it's interesting where we've come to the point where we just normalize things.
Well, how can you know if an event is bad? See, that's one thing that is also something that you can't even know. I mean, for some people, it definitely might be bad, but for other things, there's always something good that bad event made.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always impossible to know. Like, what if that tragedy of that young person dying up, maybe the person had a disease, a genetic disease that was going to develop that same year, and it would have been in agony for the next few days. And this was a way for the person to enjoy the last time in a happier mode. Who's to say that was a bad thing or not? So I think if you take off the good or bad label, then it's also not a big deal.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But it's also something that you can't tell a lot of people, because the second you tell someone, oh yeah, this major tragedy, but then it's like, it did not affect me. I shouldn't even know about it. Just putting it in my head is making me feel bad, and I'm not going to do anything about it. So if I'm not going to do anything about it, what is even the point of storing that information in my brain? Yeah. It's just taking up space. I'd rather know a song lyric, a pretty song lyric. I'd rather know that.
No, you're right. I think that's not necessarily a wrong way to look at it at all. So, that was cool. I like talking to you, Crumbz. You're an interesting person. So I have one last question for you. I don't know if you like talking to me. You're probably like, fuck, why did I agree to do this again?
Yeah, it's just fine. Some people definitely think I'm crazy.
No, you're not crazy. I think your rationale has logic to it, and as long as it has logic backing it, I'm okay with it. It's like when people are talking about like tarot cards and stuff and being like, I really believe I'm psychic. Those are the people that I think are crazy. So don't tell me you believe in tarot cards and you're psychic, because I'll think you're crazy then.
I've never done them, but I still can't get myself to go there, because if I ever did tarot cards as a like real person tarot card, I would want to go in wanting to mask my identity to the maximum. Yeah. And try to see what the person would say, because so much of it is just them inferring your emotional state, because just showing up there is already telling the person that's about to do your reading so much. I mean, you don't show up there without the initial predisposition of you're going to be primed to believe whatever comes out of their mouth.
And they give you a lot of like astrology, very open-ended things that affect your life. Like,
a lot of them can be true, though. A lot of them can definitely be true, and as long as it adds value to someone's life, I think it's fine, right? It might be mumbo jumbo to some, but if somebody can live their life successfully to their greatest life through astrology, more power to them.
I'm not going to agree with that one. I think
Why not?
Okay.
What if say someone like, what if Elon Musk's decisions are based partially through astrology? Is he flawed?
I think that's not using logic at all. So yes, I would say that is flawed.
But logic doesn't get you to every optimal conclusion.
Yeah, but I don't think guessing does either, and I think that's functionally what astrology is guessing. Like you literally could flip a coin, and it would be the same result then. Like at that point,
from logic, by that trained logic, also you must make a leap of intuition / guess when you reach a conclusion through logic. So you just get closer to the place to the answer, and you still have to make it
Yeah,
leap.
you do, but like astrology is like so far back. It's like I decided to jump a cliff rather than walk across the bridge.
There's a lot of truth to astrology, and I think you might be thinking of like astrology, like the zodiac is, I think, what you're thinking.
Yes, yeah.
And there's actually a significant truth to it, not in the extreme that some people take it.
There's positive affirmations built into them and stuff like that.
But like the guy utilizing stars for how they affect things on Earth is definitely something that I think is real.
Oh
The moon literally affects the tides.
No. So that's astronomy.
Yeah, astronomy.
Astrology is zodiac signs. Yeah.
Well, even the zodiac, I think there's the value that I think from it is I see a pattern in the the horoscope signs to people's attitudes that seems somewhat accurate, and I also think that it does make sense for a species to have a set number of personality traits for its own survival, just how a bee colony has a certain set of bees, and a bee or an ant colony has a certain types of ants, and for a pack of lions, you have certain types of lions performing different functions. Same thing for apes. So I see already within animals a set of personality traits or roles that are already predefined to maximize its chances of survival. So I don't see why humans would be special enough to not have a certain set of personality traits that make for the most progress in the long term. So if astrology is the one area that has gotten the closest to giving us something that people like, because it's been going on for so long, what people like, right, what works for people, for the majority of people, then I think more power to it. And I think also the next step of it is what people are doing now with their ENTFP tests and personality traits, which I think is essentially the same thing. I think astrology and those personality tests, you do know that,
like, so like that goes into Myers-Briggs and stuff like that, and you do know that even those people have said that you can't actually use this for any reasonable amount of predicting.
You also know that those tests came from Carl Jung, and Carl Jung was also pretty on some crazy shit as well that could be close to astrology.
But I don't believe in personality testing either. Like, we found that there's correlations, but your personality changes. It's not something that's stable.
Yeah, your personality, absolutely changes. But I'm just saying, to have a certain set of parameters.
Yeah.
It just
we do. Is
enough to say
the problem with the zodiacs is they're associated by your birth date and month. Okay, I'm okay with just like personality and stuff. And the other thing I don't like is people always ignore the misses and only take the hits. It's like psychics are very much the same thing, where people they'll pay attention to all the hits that register them, but any of the misses they'll completely ignore. And so the same thing kind of happens with astrology. And if you're doing that, then that by definition almost means that it's flawed, because it's not actually predicting things. You're just taking the things you want to hear.
Here's something else that I think astrology's got going on for it. It's a really good topic to flirt with.
That is true. I will not deny that.
So I'll tell you.
That is, it's like one benefit is there's a lot of people who believe in astrology that you can flirt with astrology.
That's keeping the fire going.
That is. I've talked to a lot of different people who females.
Like, oh my God, are you a Leo?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Are you a Capricorn? Like. So I have one last question for you. You've got the experience being on the show. It's been a lot of fun. If you could see anyone else to be on the show, the only criteria is they have to speak English, because it's the only language I speak, and they have to be involved in either esports, gaming, entertainment, really digital media. Now that you've said that, they need to be involved in digital media in some aspect. Who would you like to see on the show? And if you pick someone I've had, I'll let you know.
Oh God. I know the name. Let me look it up.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. It's not the same one, but it'll do. Alex Garfield.
Dude who works for Twitch, right?
No, he is the CEO of Pop Dog.
Okay, I also know who that is too. I was thinking of
It's the same
someone
person.
else. Okay. Okay. Alex Garfield.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I'll reach out and see if I can get him on the show sometime.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. I've had a lot of fun. Hopefully you did too.
I did.
With that being said, if you have any shout outs, you're more than welcome to throw them here. Otherwise, I'll close out the show.
No, just thank you for having me.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. For everyone out there, this has been The Minds of Media. My name is Blake Pandashevitz, and until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful